What's been your like proudest moment, or like the the thing you've accomplished that's been the proudest?
Well, anytime I help a member is really good because that's what I work for, the members. So if I get many calls on asking me about benefits, asking me about pension, asking me about union dues or anything along those lines, what do I need to do when I'm out of work? So anytime I help a member, that's gratifying. Anytime I can sign a non-union contractor to a union contract, and have the contractor happy because he signed and the members happy because they signed, great experience because again that creates more job for our out of work members, which is another aspect. You put people to work, so that's a great feeling. I travel a lot, my hours are long, and I don't mind it. That's a good thing too. I like what I do.
So, just the opportunity to like get out of LA.
Yeah, I travel a lot, and that's good. I'm not confined to an office. So it's a bit of freedom.
Uh, what are some things you wish you knew before you got started? I mean, because I know you went through, you said like an intern process, so you had an opportunity to learn. But is there anything?
I wish that I had known more about the labor law. I mean, I'm learning there's a lot involved in labor law, but as long as you know labor laws and labor compliance, you're able to help everybody out. Makes you more knowledgeable, makes you more marketable. Contractors ask a lot of questions, so it's a good sell point. They'll challenge you on stuff, and you'll be able to refer to law. And of course, once you can show it in black and white, then your word is pretty much concrete. You gain a friend.
Going back, you mentioned the different certifications. Do those stay free for the union members?
Yeah, it's paid for by the employer as part of the contribution of them being a union member. There's things that are negotiated in the contract which states X amount of dollars will go towards, whatever, or X amount of cents will go towards the training. So the training is free to the member because it's paid for by the employer and the contributions that's made to the trust fund. So when we say these classes are free to the member really doesn't pay anything out of his pocket to go to these classes. And they're held at various locals, and we try not to have them during the week. We really try to schedule them on the weekend, on Saturday. We try to make the location central so that, a lot of people can get to it. But basically all it is a phone call to the local saying, hey, what classes do you have this month? When's your next class for this? Where is it at? Go get these certifications. Market yourself. It's good on your resume. Have certifications in 13 different scopes of work.
So it's not necessarily easy, but simple to take the classes.
That's right. All you have to do is call and put your name on the list and attend the class.
All right, so what's been your avenues for support through your process? Because you mentioned that you work long hours, you have to travel like out of town. Like, what are some of your support systems?
Well, of course, my organization is supportive for this particular cause. They're really interested in trying to help this issue regarding black people. So I know that's one thing, is that we have a support system, that I have a union. It's not just me, or it's not just 100 people. The laborers union, we're over 1 million members strong, and that's what I have the support of my superiors regarding this issue. So that's a good thing, that I have the support of my superiors. Ask the question again.
Just some support systems for you going through, like, as you've been working.
Well, and also you say support systems.
Like family.
Well, yeah, my family's supportive. My father's really into what I do. He's really informative. He was an activist also back in the 60s. So I guess it's his fault that I'm an activist. It's hereditary, I guess. And again, support, you say I have children too, so my job is really hard because I'm gone a lot. So that's really, really key, is that I have a supportive part on that end, where it's not a lot of problems because I'm out of town and my children are involved. Though I call them every day, and sometimes I don't see them for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. But again, it could be really bad if I didn't have a support system, and I do. So I'm blessed in that way too.
Were there any barriers that you had to overcome to work for the labor union, like personal, institutional?
Not really. I was blessed. I went up to my boss, my current boss, and told him I was interested in becoming an organizer. And I promised God, he said, "Brother, I'm glad you came to me. I need a black organizer." So, fortunately, I'm the first black organizer in Southern California. And I must have did pretty good because 9 months later, I hired another black guy. So it's the first time in Southern California history that we have a black person who sustained the job. I understand that I think there were 1 or 2 black people who were hired before, but they didn't like to travel. They didn't want to be away from their family. So unfortunately, they passed on the opportunity. Unfortunately, I stepped in and was able to sustain it. And again, I like what I do. I like giving back. I don't look at it like I work for an individual. I'm not part of, or I don't try to say that I'm part of one committee or a bunch of committees. I'm run by God. And that's truly how I motivate myself, is that everything is in God's eyes. So I try to be as righteous as possible and motivate people that way.
So for other people that would be considering entering the labor trade, would there be any barriers that might pop up? Because you mentioned that like your trade is pretty open in terms of ex-felons, not necessarily needing to know major math skills.
The only barrier really is if you have drugs in your system. That's going to stop you automatically. So that's one barrier. Attitude, of course. If you have a bad attitude, who's going to want to hire you? So I guess that's the 2 most important aspects of coming into this organization, is that, of course, you have to be drug free. You have to have a great attitude, and of course you have to work. It's a hard job. It's labor, so you have to be able to want to work hard, put in 8 hours, get an honest 8 hours pay, and move on.
What advice would you give to people entering the trade?
Again, stay hungry. Make sure you take all the classes. If you're not working, really make sure you take the classes. And even if you are working, if you have some extra time on the weekend, take those classes. It's nothing like those certifications. You can go through life, and that's something they can't take away from you. And education is something they cannot take from you. So once you're educated and you get these certifications, it's a great sense of pride once you get one certification, and then once you start building up and you get all these certifications, and now you're eligible, to become a labor foreman or a superintendent on a job, because you know the job and you know how to motivate people. So you went from a regular laborer, now you're pointing fingers and directing people. So that's a good incentive, a great incentive.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add to the?
At this point, no, I don't. I wish I had a brochure which showed our certifications, and I have one in the car which I'll show you later, which shows all the certifications that we offer. We're also into the green, so we know that green is the future, so we're into photovoltaic, everything up to not including the connection. So that's going to be a big job in the future. There's going to be a lot of solar projects going up, so that's going to sustain a lot more jobs. And again, that's what we want to do. We just want to grow as a union, reach out to the community and those in the community, and to help the less fortunate.
What do you feel is the perception of this kind of job in the community?
think it's I think it's a good perception. You know, I think that, you know, once you see somebody who's in the construction industry and you see them coming home, you know, the perception is, hey, that's a hard worker. He looks like he's been doing, you know, hard work. When you know, you stereotype them. You say, hey, I know he makes good money. You assume that they make good money. You assume that they have good benefits. So yeah, I think it's something that helps your esteem.
All right, so this next part is just a few questions about, because one of the funders for the Black Worker Center is this group, and they're trying to look at Black male achievement and looking at the role of like fathers and how they might be, like how Black men as fathers who might have like child support or issues like that might be affected in terms of their participation in work and everything.
Alright, that's your question.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, do you think child support is a barrier for Black men in construction? Like in terms of either being able to get a job?
I can't really honestly answer that question, but to make an assumption, I would say, regardless if it was black or white or whatever, anything in between, if you're applying for a job, and right now there's a lot of background checks, and when you do background checks on people who are in arrears, let's say, of course I think they're owed the opportunity to ask them, you know, why they're in arrears. You know, they may have been out of work, so there's some situations which warrants them not paying child support, which may put them on this list. But when these employers do these background checks and they see that these individuals are back in their child support dues, what they do stereotype right away is they say, oh, this is a sign of somebody who's not responsible. And of course that puts up a flag. It will put up a flag with me too, but of course I believe in giving people a chance and hearing them out. So yeah, if I was to see that on the background check, I would still want to, if he had all the qualifications, I would want him to come in and explain, you know, the circumstances involved there. And if it was determined that he's just a deadbeat dad, then of course that proves that he's not responsible, and in turn he's probably not going to be responsible for your company. So I can understand that part of it. But again, I believe in giving everybody a fair chance. So I don't really want to put a tag on it and say it's just black people, because if I was an employer, I'd be looking at all my employees the same way.
So from an employer's perspective, you think that it's just like a general idea that if people, like just specifically, if they're like back on their child support payments, there's sort of this idea of lack of responsibility?
I would say, yeah. I would say an assumption, yes.
But in terms of it being like a specific barrier for black men in the trade, you wouldn't.
I know there's barriers with black people, but I wouldn't. You'd have to give me a better example of it than that. So.
Has child support ever been an issue for you or other workers that you know personally?
No. No, everybody that I know that's working has no problem paying child support. I mean, they'll complain about, this is taken out and this is taken out, but at the end of the day, you have to have some type of self-satisfaction that you're not considered a deadbeat dad by, you know. And we all owe an obligation to our children, not just to our children, but to all children. That's my philosophy, because essentially we're all role models. And children look up to us, so if they look up to you and you're appealing to them and you're cursing or whatever, they're going to think that's okay. So yeah, I think we have a responsibility to all children to give them the correct tools.
All right, so that's
it? All right, how to do?
Great.
All right, so you'll let me know exactly what's going to go in, and will I be able to hear if anything is picked?
I can email you the audio, so everything that you said. Because I don't know, I might not be here for when they come up with the actual program and everything.